Hello and welcome to another event of Angular Americas. Today is Angular Americas automated amalgamation. Now, I would hazard to guess that at least half of you who saw that title had to maybe look up what amalgamation meant. What do you guys think? Did anybody know what I was trying to get at there?
I dared Samantha to say it 5 times fast, and she just said no. She didn't even try. She's like, no.
I mean, it's a term that means coming together, but obviously I'm talking referencing to continuous integration, something that is a vital part of any of our dev setup, although I would imagine that some initial projects that when they get started, usually you don't think about it too much, but most mature products these days have some sort of testing and continuous deployment so that kind of save us the time of as we're checking in code and deploying it out, making sure everything is safe and everything. So it's the coming together in an automated way of all of our efforts to get it into staging and production. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But to start off with, I know you guys, before I jumped on, already started to go over this a little bit. How are you guys doing? Bonnie, how are you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm good. I have had such a crazy week and such a crazy month. Angular Nation is growing like crazy, and I have so much exciting things going on. There's a little bit of a bottleneck right at the Bonnie right now because there's like 3,000 of you and there's one of me and everybody's talking to me, but I have started asking for help. I've started delegating things, and I've got some people giving me advice, very smart people giving me advice, and some people coming in and actually starting to get help to help me get things under control. And I have been lining up more live events and more experts coming in, and there's just so much going on that I'm excited about. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of happy that it's Friday because on Saturday I shut off the computer and go outside, and it'll be a great break for me because it's been a crazy week, but it's been such a good fun week. I'm just so excited about everything. Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah, with that, one of the things that you and I were talking about was some of the automation aspects of sort of automating your operational tasks through the day. And actually, I didn't get a chance to talk too much about this when we were discussing it earlier this week, but this is something that my company has gone, leaned really heavily into because, I work for like what's currently a 3-person company that handles a lot of stuff. And we've kind of made a decision over the years to really, really push to automate stuff as much as possible. And we don't have to necessarily spend the entire of this episode talking about that, but the 2 things that I would recommend to everybody else, that's sort of like the summary of, our discussions and everything else, is that, number one, you can do more with virtual assistants than you would think, and they don't cost as much as you would think. But you do have to take some time to work out like the best way to optimize it. So there's all sorts of virtual assistant services out there. And this would be for, your either personal life or your company tasks that you can offload and just have them, do these kind of manual efforts for not that expensive. So I would highly recommend people trying that out at least and see if you can find a sweet spot. And then the other thing is,
wait, do you have a service that you would recommend? I'm writing this down, so I need to. I want a virtual assistant. Give me one. Where do I look?
So we've used a bunch of them over the years, and so I'll post it afterwards because we've switched around. And off the top of my head, I don't deal with them on a daily basis. There's one of the other guys in my company who does that, so I want to give you the kind of top recommendations from that. But I do know that like we have one particular group that's been good at doing like copywriting for just like simple stuff, like more marketing based things, and then another group that's been really good at kind of responding to emails to like do certain actions and other things. So I'll post it on the Angular Americas channel after I kind of get it from my other coworker.
That would be great.
And
then you could put it in the other. There's a automation channel too. You can put it in.
Oh yes, either one. Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
And then the other thing is that you'd be surprised by how much you can automate by just getting good at like either if the software that you're using has like an extensible API, like we talk about like Mighty Networks is used to power Angular Americas, and I don't know to what degree they're extensible, but even if you just hack bots that scrape the web, people are sometimes afraid of that, of doing like web scraping type stuff, but like, especially if you have full control over, like, it's your own site and your own kind of stuff, it's actually fairly easy. And you can do like all sorts of stuff for automating operational tasks. So I would recommend that as well.
I want to learn all of it. Or delegate, one of the two, because there's only so much I can learn so fast. But yeah, this is, the more I can automate things, the more I can focus on the future and have more community initiatives and more guests lined up and all kinds of exciting stuff. Because I spend way too much time right now on administrative tasks.
Yeah. So we don't have to necessarily spend all the time on that, but any quick questions on that stuff before we move on from anyone? All right. So Bonnie, any other Angular Nation news?
Well, if I just take a quick peek, the main thing that I want to say, and obviously for those of you here, you're in the Angular Americas channel. If you're watching this, if you join Angular Nation, if you're new to Angular Nation, you have to join more channels, because you'll only see like the Friday social and the events in the main channel, but there are so many other channels. We got Angular Americas, Angular Africa, Angular APAC, and we got the Storybook channel that's actually having live events in there. So the big things that I'm always excited about Angular Americas, because it's just so much fun in this channel. But we have Ankita is doing ditching NGG. We were actually talking about this with Igor last night in the hallway track about NG Deep, and they were like, Igor, what can you say about NG Deep? And he was like, so really, we've heard for years that NG Deep might be going away, but it hasn't gone away. So like, what's going on with that? And but we know that it's not recommended, right? We don't really want to use NG Deep, so that's what Ankita's talking about next week. Anaboka is doing another Cypress talk, which you might have seen the Cypress talk. She did it, and now she's doing it again in the APAC channel. And it was such a good talk, and we love Anaboka. So if you have not seen Cypress yet, or if you want to just root for Anaboka because she's amazing. And we've got Storybook Office Hours with Kai Roeder, who's really cool. We love him. And I'm really excited. Really, so we've got this is something that, y'all, I have not seen Taiga yet. I don't know. I haven't looked at it, but everybody that I've heard who has played with Taiga, they really like it. And so we're going to have Meet the Taiga team, which people have been asking me for. And I went to the Taiga team, but I had to wait because they were on vacation. Now they're back. They're coming October 8th. October 9th is our job fair. So we've got all kinds of exciting stuff. And I was actually in the middle of writing the weekly digest, which included what's happening today, Angular Americas, but I haven't finished it yet. So all that will be also in the weekly digest as well.
Cool.
Oh, can I say one more thing? Because it's also in the weekly digest, so you'll see this, but I'm just really excited because some of you know how close we came this month to putting a paywall in front of our live events. And I don't know if you're paying attention, but we really, I don't know anything about running a business. I'm spending a lot of money and not making a lot of money. And so this was something that we were just about to do until our friends at AG Grid swooped in with a sponsorship to say, hey, we really want to keep these live events free, which the Angular team loves, we love, you love, because it affects all of us. So that's really probably the most exciting thing that's happened this week is AG Grid. And then because I was already setting up like premium tiers for our live events, of course, this channel would stay free and all of our community channels would stay free, but like the Angular team and the GDEs we would charge for that. We don't have a choice, right? Well, AG Grid just put a stop to that. So all those those premium tiers that I was working on to charge you guys, it's scrapped. I can't promise that everything will always be free, but we're not putting up a paywall in front of our, so everybody please help me give AG Grid some love, because that made me so happy, because I didn't want to do a paywall in front of our live events. I really love hosting this stuff for free, but there are bills to pay. And so AG Grid, not only are they helping with free events, they're also helping me give out more free scholarships for the premium training. So I already loved them anyway, but now I just love them even more. So that was my big exciting news.
Wow, that's great.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it affects all of us. So we can all celebrate like, hey, free.
Are we getting an AG channel or topic to, get in touch with them or something like that?
Okay, so see, I love AG Grid, and I've always loved AG Grid, and I reached out to them a long time ago and said, hey, Niall, can we do a channel? Can we do like meet the team? Can we do? And he said, the team's working, like they're really busy. And they have, because they're not struggling with startup problems like we are. Like they have and they already have like premium tiers and all that stuff. So they are actually really busy. And also because remember when I reached out to him, I was the only one here, right? So now as we're getting bigger and then it's going to be easier for us to say, hey, they want to come. So we have been talking to them. And I have not gotten them to commit to like every month because they already have their support tier set up. But I do think that we're going to do meet the AG Grid team and we're going to have them come. It's just, we have to like, they're really busy. They've got a lot of enterprise clients and stuff going on, but yes, we're going to try and get them to come. I love Niall and Sean and they're just super fun guys and I want you to meet them all. So I'm going to keep bugging them until they find time for us. They are busy, but I can be very persistent.
No.
Yes, no, really, I'm serious. Don't worry, Natty. I'm gonna keep it up until I'll send them this video and be like, hey guys, they're asking for you. You can't resist that kind of charm. How can anybody resist Natty? Like I can't.
My messy hair is the magic. No, my company has been wanting to try it for quite some time now. But they're too lazy to, get one of us the free stuff that they have out there. If they had a channel though, and I could be like, hey, they're actually there, they have office hours, or we can get in touch if we get stuck, it could be like a great motivator to get it started. But otherwise, I know that they're lazy and they're scared that we can get stuck and it will be a waste of time and money.
Well, I know that I have used AG Grid and there are a lot of us who have used AG Grid and a lot of us actually, and I know Sandra is a fan of AG Grid as well. And so there are a lot of us who can help you. And if we get stuck and you ask us questions that we can't help you with, definitely we're going to go to AG Grid. But I'm also going to be sure to send them this video and be like, hey, AG Grid, we love you. Come and hang out with us.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they'll show up. I suspect we'll see them.
Very cool. So lots going on coming up as usual. Thank you, Bonnie. And now let's do our Angular updates. Now, Kyler, I didn't sync up with you ahead of time, but did you have anything for Angular updates that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I've got a few things to talk about. So I've been watching the commits going into version 13, and there's some interesting stuff coming. Nothing super big, but just some interesting little things that I think are going to provide some polish there. One of them is a new output on the router link active directive. It'll emit whenever a corresponding link is activated. So that's pretty cool. You can do some cool stuff with that, like animations and stuff like that when routing occurs and that sort of thing. Null undefined router links will or should disable navigation. So empty router links are going to be will not trigger navigation, but there will be a migration that automatically initializes that to an empty array for you. And then there's option to correctly restore history on failed navigation, which previously wasn't there. This is something I've been really excited about too. We ran into an issue at work a few weeks ago where navigation just randomly got canceled, and we were having a hard time figuring out why. We ended up having to step through the Angular source code to figure out what the culprit was. And but with Angular version 13, they're adding context and error message to the unhandled navigation error. So if you have route tracing enabled, you'll be able to see that. So that'll be really helpful. There's also Angular language service update, auto insert optional chaining operator when property access is done on a nullable symbol. So if you have a property that's that could be of type null and you're trying to, or an property object that could be of type null, and you're trying to access a property on that object, it'll automatically add the question mark optional chaining operator for you. So that's cool. And then stricter typing from form status. So previously that was just a string. But now it's going to be a union type, and that type is going to be called form control status. And that's just a union type of all status strings for form controls. So that's pretty cool. The last thing I wanted to talk about was for NGRX. This is version 12.1, so it's out now. There's an API called Feature Creator, where you can like actually create the feature, and it just takes an object with a reducer and that sort of stuff in it. But the benefit you get from there is it automatically generates your state selectors and child selectors. And all the child selectors are just appended. The property name is prepended with select word. So that's pretty cool. You don't even have to write your selectors with that. So that's all I have.
Cool. Yeah, one thing you quickly updated that was with the question mark operator defaults that would come in. I got to say, that has been that original change that Angular had before it was implemented in TypeScript itself. Like, that has been one of my favorite, like, little tiny changes that has like meant so much, because oh my god, it's just one of those things that you use everywhere. Like I guess similar to deconstructing or whatever. Like, you use it everywhere, and it's so simple, but just so effective. So like I continue to this day think about like my life before that was available and after. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just yesterday, I replaced a 5-line if with.
Yeah, so much more concise and beautiful. Definitely.
Yeah. With like one line with a couple of question marks in it.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Kyler. Sandy, you have anything else that you wanted to add to that you can think about? No? All right. Cool. All right. So for today, like we talked about, we're going to talk about continuous integration. I would actually be curious, is there anybody else who has a product that they're working on with a team? Like, usually when you do it by yourself, you wouldn't do this, but you're working on a product with a team that you're not using any form of continuous integration? So pretty much everyone. And how many people are using like a third-party service like Circle CI?
No,
I'm in a project where it is hooked up, but I have no clue what it is doing or whatever. So,
what are they using, Sander, for your stuff?
They are using GitHub Actions and Circle CI. But the project is so massive that I have no time to look in what they set up. There is a boatload of automation going on, which is.
So they have dedicated people that were like working on internal like operations like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Definitely. Natty, what about you for the stuff you guys work on?
We're using Azure. So.
Okay. So Azure, I'm not that familiar with Azure, but I'm not surprised they have some AI stuff. Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, well, actually, so maybe this is a good topic. How many people actually have written their own, written Circle CI scripts or configurations, as opposed to like Sandra and Natty are saying, like they're sort of just the downstream clients of like using it, but they didn't actually create the config or create the script.
I'm using GitHub Actions quite a lot.
Yeah.
Or for my own projects, because I think that's well fitted for most things. It's not as powerful as Circle CI, but it's way easier to set up.
Actually, I haven't used GitHub Actions. It's just obviously triggers off of check-ins and that type of thing, and then you can kind of do any arbitrary script, something like that.
Yeah. It's like they are a little bit like Docker scripts, like Docker files.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They are similar. They are not the same, but then you can run whatever, and you can basically for Scully we do everything with GitHub Actions. We build, we release the pre-releases on NPM. We do the tests. There is an entire build pipeline in there.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is let me share my screen and can everybody see my screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm not going to go too much into depth of this, but so this is more just kind of a quick showing of an example. And for people that have used this before, this is like really basic stuff. So it's not like rocket science or whatever, but it's more that for people that may not be familiar, kind of seeing how it may be set up. And actually, I'd be interested in seeing some of the differences if anybody else wants to do show and tell as well after me. So for Circle CI, at least, which is what we use for all of our continuous integration, continuous deployment, it's keyed off of a config file that you check in under .circleci. And so I have this main config.yaml file. And just like most of these types of things, there's a lot of like old scripts that other people have written over the years that you kind of re-leverage. So for Circle CI, they call them orbs, which are essentially somewhat of the equivalent of like NPM packages or something like that. Like it's this set of code that you're reusing from somebody else. So for I have actually two different Circle CI scripts. One for like some of the new stuff that we're doing with the latest version of Angular and the latest version of Node and everything like that. And then this other one that has some of our legacy stuff. And so there are some like differences here, mostly that the legacy stuff doesn't leverage like built-in services as much, and it's more like scripting based. So in this, usually like most CI stuff, there's like a building, testing, and then deployment cycle or set of steps or whatever. So for the build cycle, it's you can configure the container that it's being built on. Obviously you're deploying to whatever your environment is. For us, it's AWS, but it has to be built somewhere. So most of the time, these CI services will spin up a Docker instance to do the build. So it's flexible. You can specify whatever Docker image you want, and if you are doing tons of builds, I guess, which we do not do, but I suppose there's an art to optimizing exactly how that is configured. But for us, it's pretty straightforward that we just spin up a basic Docker image and then just run a bunch of steps. So this is like literally as if you had like a bunch of NPM script steps or other whatever scripting language you're using to just run a bunch of things on an arbitrary Docker instance. So some of these are built-in commands. Like, so obviously like checkout here is like a Circle CI thing that it knows to check out from your GitHub repo of the latest to the Docker instance. And then it starts running these scripts over your code that gets pulled down. And there's a bunch of configurations for which variables you could use, etc. But usually after you build, there's a testing phase, which actually for us, I think there's different ways to do it. But for us, yes, for us, we just do it as a command. So like we just have we don't use some of the built-in Circle CI stuff for testing. We actually have our own just like NPM script like test thing that we do. That runs it on the Docker instance. So, I mean, it's literally running just like you would on your local machine, a bunch of tests. And I guess the key thing, though, is that if it fails, then the entire Circle CI build fails and you get notified. But otherwise, it's just like running it local. And
Sandra has a comment or a question.
Well, yeah. Yes. I am actually, thanks, Natty, because I'm not looking at that screen. So definitely let me know when that comes up. So Sander, yeah, what do you have as a question?
Well, this is very similar to the GitHub workflows. And if you like, I can show the GitHub workflow that I use for Scotty on GitHub, how it looks like.
I would very much like it. Let me I have like 1 minute to
go ahead.
to finish this, and then I would love to see that. And then for the deployment phase, we have you can separate out depending on the environment. So like for us, we do things slightly different on staging versus production, different environment variables, some slightly different configurations, et cetera. So like at the bottom here, yeah, you can configure, like, so we do it based off of the branch. It depends on how you want to set things up in your own environment. So this is where we set it up that if you check in to the production branch in GitHub, then Circle CI detects that and kicks off the production build, if that makes sense. So you can wire it up that way. And the only last thing I was going to show, actually two other quick things. One is that, yeah, for some of the new stuff, I mean, there's orbs for most things on most cloud providers. So not surprisingly, if you use ECS, like if you deploy your Docker containers to the Elastic Container Service on AWS, and then use ECR rather, and then use ECS for like the Elastic Container Service for actually running your containers, then it's even easier. Like the stuff I just showed you, like we're running all these like scripts, but when you're doing ECS, it's like so much of it is just built in. Like you're literally just specifying deploy this container out to this environment, and then you're done, because it relies on, you know, the stuff that's built into AWS ECS to do a lot of it. And if you're using other Azure, other cloud providers, there's very similar orbs for other things like that. And then the last thing is just so you see what it looks like in Circle CI for the different builds. So every single time we check in, regardless of what branch it is, it does try to do a build. You could modify that so that it doesn't, but we just have it even if it's on a personal branch. Like, so right now, I have this branch that I created, just SIP ingress, which is just a temporary branch, but it'll still try to build it once I check it in. And then, you know, obviously we're just more scrutinous about, it's not actually, sorry, it's building it and testing it, but it's not deploying it when it's on those temporary branches. It's only when it's on the main branch that it deploys to staging, or the production branch that it'll deploy to production. But that's just the way we configured it. And so we'll get notified if there's a problem. You can go in here and look at some of the details if you want to. Well, this wasn't an error, but actually, we haven't had an error in a little while. But if there was an error, you'd be able to like dive into exactly what it was and go from there. So that was like super quick 5 minutes breakdown of, you know, example of Circle CI. Before I do want to see Sanders set up. Any question about Circle CI in particular?
Just one tiny one. So
yeah.
if there's ever, when you're doing your tests or whatever checks, if there's ever a process that never ends, how do you know? Does it fail? Does it have a limit?
There is definitely a timeout for sure. But to be honest, I do miss those sometimes. So it's a matter. What we found is that you can configure it so that it notifies you in different ways for different types of things. So we have, for the timeout in particular, we have made it be louder in terms, like, so it hits our Slack channels and
nice.
Notifies us, you know, and that type of thing. But yeah, in the past, I would miss that all the time when something like that would happen.
Nice. Yeah, Slack integrations for the win. Thank you.
Yep. Definitely. Cool. All right, Sandra, show us what you got.
This is the GitHub action screen, and this is our main workflow we are using. And this is how it is presented. Let me show the workflow first. And as you see, it is very, very similar to what you're doing for Circle CI. We have it. If we push to the main branch, we are doing some different things than when we do a pull request. So there are different kinds of triggers that.
Sander, can you zoom in just a little bit more? There we go. Yep.
This thing is public on GitHub, on our GitHub, so you can check it out anyway if you like. There is a boatload of steps going on. I really enjoy this thing, especially when a workflow takes like 15 minutes to complete. I will zoom out a little bit because zoom out. And you can see that once the libraries are built, I'm kicking off like 2 parallel tasks that are building the samples and that are building the docs. The samples are also basically our kitchen sink. So it goes over all the things we have. So if we use that for the testing, when the tests are, when the demos are built, the docs are built, we are running the tests against the demos and the docs, because we have a very different setup for most setups, because we are testing an entire stream. Scully is producing dist files, and we want to know for sure that the end product gets out right. So we are testing the end product, and we are not testing necessarily all the steps in between. Although if something fails in between, the end result will be off all the time. So that's why we are testing against this distributions. When the tests are finished, we are publishing to the develop, automated npm publishing to the develop tag. And when that is done, we are, and that is the last step, and these are actually four steps, and it goes up and down. We are testing Scully if it works in a new project with Node version 12 and Angular version 10, Node version 12, Angular version 11, and so on. And this goes up and down every once in a while we add new versions or remove versions. Pretty soon I will probably add versions 15 and 16 for Node and remove 10 and 11 and only test 12 up, Angular 12 up. So this is the way we have set it up. And once it builds for all the Angular versions with all the Node versions, we are ready to merge it into master.
That's cool. I do like the visual aspect of this for sure.
This is so nice.
Yeah, I'm so used to looking at YAML files or whatever. This definitely, I don't know, it helps to get a better feel for it for sure.
Yeah, also when it is running, you can quickly see, because you can skip steps on different ways the thing is run. You can quickly see what is, if I go to the actions and I go to a more recent one, you can see this is just a part and it doesn't push to npm, and it doesn't, because it is a documentation change. We are not going to test if the libraries are building okay. We are not going to deploy new libraries to deploy, and we are not going to build. Probably changing our docs is never going to throw off something inside of Scully.
Yep. Yeah. That's actually one thing that I have not done yet, is to distinguish between what is actually being checked in and do something different. I think that's actually a really cool idea, and probably one that I should start doing something. Just like you, like, especially when you're using a mono repo, like there's a lot of stuff in there that like you shouldn't treat everything the same. For sure.
No, we have libraries. We have a boatload of stuff in there, but actually the only thing that is an exception for us is documents. If we modify some markdowns, we don't need to test everything. We just need to deploy new docs.
Cool. Tyler, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right time to ask this. I don't know if it applies to Scully, but the question always seems to come up. I get asked a lot. are you building your Angular application once and deploying everywhere? Let's say you have multiple environments. Do you build it once and then deploy it to all of these environments, or do you build it per environment? And then, but if you build once and deploy everywhere, then you've got to figure out a way to handle environment variables at runtime rather than build time. So I was just curious as to how everyone is handling that, what you're doing, and how that affects how long your CI runs.
Yeah, that doesn't really apply to Scully. What I do is on the start, you can see here there are 2 jobs. So I'm building with Node 12 and Node version 14, just to make sure that it builds with both of those things. If it doesn't even build with one of those, there is no use in going any further. I would like to add all Node versions on all the steps, but then the 7 minutes here would quickly turn into 70 or something like that. And there is a limited amount of free minutes we get from Microsoft for free. We never hit it yet, but so that is, and it is really nice, and you can dig into every step of the way, just like you can see whatever you want to see. Everything is findable here in a nice interface, so you can drill in every step of the CI/CD process.
Aditha, I see your question. When you say, how do you do this? What's the this in that? You were asking, how do you do this by checking files changed or commit messages? Do you mean like kicking off the build?
I can show that. In the GitHub Actions, you have the on keyword, and the on keyword you can on push branches main, on pull requests. So if someone creates a pull request, everything kicks off. If something gets pushed to main, everything kicks on before it is able to merge.
So you said the documentation, changes wouldn't be triggering, library publishing, right? So how do you differentiate that by checking the files changed, or
that's not
for the commit messages?
Yeah, that's not in here yet, because we are experimenting with that. We have like a separate workflow for documentation right now. And the workflow for documentation only kicks off when there is like an actual change in the folders of the documentations. That's also where you have an on, and you have like some settings here that you can. I cannot edit it in here. Where you can say, hey, if files in this folder change, kick this off. So you have different triggers. We are moving everything into one big workflow, but we are not there yet. It looks simple, but it is a boatload of work to get this thing up and running the way it's supposed to be running. And then you add like one line and nothing works.
Maya was asking about, do automated build pipelines count as CI/CD? My opinion, well, so this is like a semantical thing, I guess. But like I traditionally think of automated build pipelines as like the feeder into CI/CD. Like CI is usually like with testing included, and then CD is when you're actually including the actual deployment based off of check-ins and that type of thing. Maya, I don't know if that answers your question, but
I think it's different for every project. Most of the times you are fine with just building and deploying from something like a GitHub action. GitHub action is actually very powerful. You can even run Docker containers like in Circle CI. The only thing is, if it's a private project, this thing isn't for free. There is a limited amount of minutes that you can use. But at the same time, Circle CI isn't free like any other product. It really...
Yeah, but to be frank, Circle CI and some of these services like that, I always put in the category of like they're cheap enough where it's like it's not really. Or maybe if you were working on a product where you weren't making any money, then sure, like that makes sense. But as long as you're working on something that makes some amount of money, these like services like this are way under like the $50 a month threshold. That like it's like a no-brainer. As long as it works for your use case and you get benefit out of it.
Yeah. We use Scully, which is open source, so we get a fair amount of CI/CD managed from GitHub Actions for free, which is more than generous. But Circle CI would not be cutting it for us. That would be like a cost that would be, we have to. Sure. There is no real money in Scully just yet.
You can stop sharing your screen, by the way. Sander. Actually, I was gonna. One of the funniest things as far as CI goes that I saw set up in a particular environment was, you guys know the company HubSpot? Anyone know the HubSpot? Very large company, marketing automation tools, based in Boston. A lot of friends from Boston, my friends here, have worked for HubSpot at one time or another. And at one time, I don't know if they still have this, but at one point they had it set up so their CI system was wired to these like fire alarm bells that were throughout the entire dev section where all the developers were in the building. And if you broke the build, they would go blazing off and scare the crap out of everyone. Like lights flashing, sound, everything like that. I'm pretty sure they stopped doing it because like that was like when there was a smaller group, they like kind of got like fired up by it now. But since they have like thousands of developers now, I'm sure, or hundreds maybe or whatever, I'm sure that is not the case anymore. But would be interesting to hear if any of you guys ever want to set that up. I'll hook you up with one of the guys who did work in that environment, and he can give you more details if you guys are interested.
Actually, I hooked up my LED strip over here, and it blinks red when the Scully build is failing.
Oh, that's a smaller version of what I just described.
Now I want to see it fail, just to see how it flashes.
It would be good to get a video. Actually, I will. Okay, that's actually a great point, Natty. I am gonna go back to my buddies and see it. They must have video recorded that at some point, and I'll post it if I get something from them. That would be hilarious.
Picture didn't happen.
Yeah.
I second the motion. We need evidence of that. Or if we could install a really loud alarm in Sander's office, we could wait until Scully goes down, and that would. I mean, just for our own entertainment, Sander. I'm just saying, you wouldn't mind.
Actually,
I'm replacing all alarms with like silent light bulb thingies.
Oh man!
Wait. Actually, I have what the ultimate system taking off of this. So if this would take some work, but if you, and I got to look into the exact way to do this, but I know it's possible. If you basically could use GitHub commits to see, so it obviously can detect breaking the build fairly straightforward, and it can kick something off pretty straightforward. You take the extra step of looking to GitHub commits to see which developer actually broke the build, and then you have those lights above everybody's station, but you only fire up their workstation to the person who caused the break. That would be great.
You put smoke in the room and do a laser pointer.
Okay, I'm sure you can think of many variations from there. But anyways, okay, getting near the top of the hour, time to wrap some things up. Let's talk about what we are excited for this upcoming week. Natty, what are you excited for this upcoming week?
I saw Ankita's talk scheduled, the one about ditching NGDeep that Bonnie was talking about earlier. I'm really excited about that one. It's been a problem because I know we shouldn't be using it, but yet it's so useful, and there are plenty of cases where we need to use it. So I'm very looking forward to see what her approach is and what is the suggested solution.
That's great.
Yep.
Who else? Who else is excited about anything for this upcoming week?
I'm excited about all the girl power First of all, we have Sarah Dresner, like OMG. And then we just had, what was her name?
You might want to explain that, a couple more words for people that weren't on Twitter seeing the announcement. Who's Sarah Dresner and what happened with her?
I mean, I actually don't even know that much about her. I just follow her on Twitter and I just love her. And she just basically got put in charge of like pretty much all of Google. I'm just kidding. So she's over the Angular team and just the web team in general. And I don't really know so much about it. I just am very excited about it. People have been asking for me to try to get her here so that we can meet her. And I'm like, I can try, but I'm not that famous. Huh?
Did you never meet her?
I don't think I've ever met her. No, I just follow her on Twitter. So I'll be fangirling just right along with the rest of us. But we also had Glafira, who was just on, I think, Angular APAC or Angular South Asia. She was amazing. And then we have, like Natty said, Ankita's coming up on NG Deep. And then the next day, we have Anna Boca, who like started out as just like a, unassuming intern. And she's amazing. We love her. So much girl power going on. I'm excited about it. I can't wait for Natty's first tech talk. I'm just saying, Natty, no pressure. I'm just reminding you guys, because she has to get out of her comfort zone in order to do a presentation for us and teach us something. And so I just would really love all of you to help questions. I want you to help me encourage. Natty, can we just ask you this? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but can we just ask you if you did a talk about the coolest thing, because we can go get an expert to help you with your talk so that you would not be doing this alone, right? You could have like a big brother expert who could like help you. So if you could not possibly fail and you just wanted to think of like, what would be something that you could talk about that would just be cool? What would it be? Like, what do you think is cool? Like, even if it's a little unattainable.
Everything. It's a challenge accepted. I can fail at everything, Bunny. I could give a talk about how to fail graciously. That would be interesting.
Natty, you really I mean, I can say this with Oye here because Oye shares this. You two have absolutely been some of my favorite students, and I really, honestly, am not being sarcastic when I say this. I think you have a lot to teach people. I'm serious. And I think that you just have to see yourself the way I see you, because I want to see you do a tech. Oye did his first tech talk and he wasn't entirely comfortable with it, but he nailed it. And then he went on Angular Air and now he's basically famous, right? So
I saw it and I loved it. The one about the tables, I've been actually sharing it with my team. I think it's fantastic.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, Natty.
The best way to learn is to teach, for sure.
I totally agree. I
had this conversation with Kyler Johnson a few years ago, and look at him now.
I'm excited to see his lighting talk. I didn't know he was presenting there, so I will be there. Kudos.
It's supposed to be airing in 3 minutes.
Woo.
Nice.
Just in time,
Well, so I'll post that link in the chat. This is the day 2 NXConf link if anyone wants to watch it.
Oh, that'll be good.
And if anybody has any feedback on how I can do video editing better, please let me know. I really want to get better at this.
And I just want to say, because there are a couple people here who are in my current class, and I just want to say that Natty and Oye have graduated, and I'm on the hunt for a new favorite student. So, But I love all of my students, so I really shouldn't say that because I don't want to leave anybody out, but I just love all of you. I love everybody.
Lots of love in the room for sure. And with that, let's start to wrap up. And I will say the next couple events here for Angular Americas, we may go in a different order or whatever, but like I talked with Bonnie about earlier, I do want to do one that's similar to this one. We talked about CI. I want to talk about local Docker, having everything locally Dockerized, something that I've been working on. I was going to kind of show some of the stuff that we've done and hopefully inspire some ideas. And then down the road, once I fix a couple things, I am really interested in getting into using Pulumi, which is infrastructure as code, similar to Terraform, for DevOps stuff that you can use with your Angular apps. So it's something that I'm really fascinated about, and I feel like it's something that a lot of you would use if you knew about it. It's relatively new technology, so we'll get into that as well. So cool.
We can't wait.
Thank you everyone for joining today. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.
Bye everyone.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.